All right, so hi everyone, Mrs. Slauson again, just a few minutes after that last video, and this is our official review for the Showcase of Learning, number 4. So your Showcase of Learning 4 will have 10 problems, this has 12. You have that factor page out, have that multiplication page out, and we're just going to get started. So again, just like our last two ones this week, everything was kind of mixed up. So just go through every problem with GCF. And then depending on the terms, 2 terms will difference a square, and 3 terms will make our x. So the first thing I'm just going to do a quick check is to make sure that everything's in standard form. So squared, just an x, just a number. So x squared, just a number, x squared, then an x cubed, x squared, x squared, x number. This one is not in standard form, so I'm going to go ahead and just rearrange this, put the 2x squared first, then the x, I'll put its invisible one, and then just the minus 10 goes at the end. So this version is no longer needed. And then the back, there's there's more problems. So x10, x5, good. This is x2, and then just the number, x2, x number, x2, x number, x2, x number. They're all in standard form. Just that one was not. So let's get started. First thing I'm going to check for is this is positive, so that's good. I just need a GCF. So the smallest number, as it turns out, goes into both of those. And then I cannot take an x out, so I'll just GCF a 6. And 6 times 3 is 18 with x squared. 6 times positive 1 is 6 with the x. And 6 times negative 2 is the negative 12. So covering up that GCF, we will be using our x because we have 3 terms. So I need factors of negative 6 because I've multiplied that. That gives me the 1x, and that will be 3 and 2. And since I have negatives here, I definitely need a negative here. And when this is positive, that means there were more positives and fewer negatives. So now I'm going to make my parentheses, put those x's in there. And the x and the x make the 3x squared, and 1 and 3 will make the 3x squared. So now I'm going to draw my face to get these side numbers, not the top and bottom numbers. And 1 is not picky, but 3 is, and 3 can only make this. So 3 times a positive 1 can make 3x, and 1x times a negative 2, following that loop, can make negative 2x. Drop my GCF down, and this one's done. All right, let's go to number 2. So leading term is positive, that's good. Is there a GCF? There is no GCF. The smallest number is 9. 9 doesn't go into this, and neither does any number smaller than 9. There are no x's to take out for both of them, so with 2 terms, we're just going to go straight to our difference of squares. So using your diagonal on the multiplication side, you would see that 25 has a square root of 5. X squared's square root is always x. 9 square root is 3. So what I'll do is go straight to my parentheses. Remember there are 2, and I'll put 5x plus 3 in one, and 5x minus 3 in the other. And then that is it. That is factored all the way. All right, number 3. Although it is in standard form, my leading term is negative, so I'm definitely going to factor out a negative. And then I can take a 3 out of both terms and an x. So here we go. Negative 3 times 1 is negative 3, and there's 1 less x. And negative 3 times negative 2 makes a positive 6, and this x is gone. It's been taken out. So covering that up, now I will see, since there are 2 terms, is there a difference of squares? So there is a difference, but 1 and 2 are not perfect squares. They are not in that diagonal. 1 has a square root, but 2 doesn't, and x does not have a square root. So this, as it turns out, is it. Our only factoring we could do was the GCF. All right, next problem. So we already said it was in standard form. Leading term is positive, so if you want to put that invisible 1 there, you can. And 1 is the biggest number that I can factor out. And then I can take an x from everything. So there's the 1 and the x, and then making our stuff in our parentheses, 1 times 1 is 1 with 2 x's because we took 1 away. 1 with negative 3 is negative 3, and there's not 2 x's, we took 1 away, there's 1. And 1 with negative 10 and no x's because we took it away. So covering this up, going to make that x. And multiplying those, I get negative 10 with negative 3 on the bottom. And when you look at your factors of 10, you'll hopefully see that 5 and 2 will somehow get us to 3. And if this is negative, that meant there were more negatives and fewer positives. So from there, I'm going to make my parentheses, put those x's on the left side, and x make the x squared, and 1 make the 1x squared. And now I draw my face to get these numbers, not these numbers. And since these are both 1, either one can get me negative 5 and the other one can get me 2. So I'll just have this one multiplied to give me negative 5. And I'll have 1 multiplied this way to give me positive 2. And then bringing back, I see my GCF, bring that into my answer, and this has been factored completely. All right, moving right along, number 5. So here is their GCF. There's an invisible 1 here, so I could take a 1 out. And then they don't all have x's, so taking a 1 out, if it's only a 1, there's no point because you're just going to end up with what you started in those parentheses. So we're just going to go straight to the x because there are 3 terms. So I need factors of 60 that get me to 16. And since these are positive, these numbers will be positive, and it will be 6 and 10. So I can go straight to my parentheses with their x's in there. And the x make the x squared, and 1 make the 1 of 1x squared. So we can draw our face now to get the side numbers, not the top and bottom numbers. And again, those are both 1, just like the other ones were, so 1 can get 10, and this one can get the 6. So 1 times a positive 10 makes 10, and 1 times a positive 6 makes the 6x. And then that's it. There was never a GCF, so we're done there. All right, moving to 6. So we did put it in standard form. I look for a GCF. 1 is my smallest number, so I can take a 1 out. But I can't take x's out of everything, so this actually, again, just like number 5, since 1 is the only GCF, don't bother. So we're going to go ahead and make our x. So there's negative 20 on top and 1 on the bottom. So when I look at 20, 4 and 5 will somehow get 1. And if this is positive, there are more positives, fewer negatives. So going to my parentheses with their x's, the x and the x make the 2x squared, and 1 and 2 make the 2x squared. So I'm going to draw my loop, my face, to get the side numbers, not the top and the bottom. And 1 is never picky. 1 can make both of these, but 2 can only make this number. I can't take 2 times a nice number to get 5. So 2 times what makes negative 4? That would be a negative 2. And that means 1 times something will have to make positive 5, and that would just be positive 5. And then that one's done because I never had a GCF. All right, let's jump to the back. 6 more. Oh, I feel ya. All right, so starting here, GCF. So I see my smallest number 2, and 2 can go into 6. And then this has 5 x's, so we haven't taken that many out before, but I can take 5 out. 2 times what makes 2 is 1, and there were 10 x's, but we just took 5 away, so that leaves us with 5. And 2 times 3 makes 6, and there were 5. We took all 5 away, so we're done. So now, covering this up with 2 terms, is this a difference of squares? As soon as I see addition, no it's not, you are done. All right, let's go to number 8. Let's start with that GCF. So looking at the smaller number, 2 does go into 50, so let's take that 2 out. They don't both have x's, so we'll leave the x's there. And 2 times 25 is the 50 with x squared, and 2 times negative 1 makes the negative 2. So covering this up with 2 terms, now we're going to see if there's a difference of squares. So there's difference, yes, and 25 and 1 are in my diagonal. So when I take the square root of this term, I get 5 and x. And when I take the square root of this term, it's just 1. So now we can make our twins that are our parentheses that are almost identical, except 1 will be plus and 1 will be minus. Looking back, I have that GCF, and we're done. All right, let's go to number 9. So looking for a GCF, smallest number is 1. Okay, I can take a 1 out. Can I take an x out? No. So as far as GCF goes, when it's only 1, you don't need to do it. It won't help you. So we're going to make an x because there's 3 terms, and I'll have -3 on top and -2 on the bottom. And these are the only factors of 3. So I'll put them in there, and if this is negative, that means there's more negatives, fewer positives, and get rid of those because it's these numbers that I want. So let's make our parentheses. And the x and the x are the x squared. So what and what make 3? That can be 1 and 3. And drawing the face to get, again, the side numbers, not the top and the bottom. So 1 is not picky, but 3 is, and 3 can only make this. So 3 times what makes -3, because the x is already there. 3 times -1 makes the -3x. So 1 will follow this loop to make the 1x, and that's a +1. All right, number 10, GCF. 6 is the smallest number, but 6 doesn't go into all of those. But what does go into all of those is 2. Can I take an x out from every term? I can't. So now let's work our GCF through. So 2 times 4 is 8 with x squared. 2 times -3 is -6 with the x. And 2 times -10 is 20 without an x. So I'm going to cover up my GCF again. And when I multiply those, I get -40 with the -3 in the bottom. And when you look at 40, 40 has quite a few to choose from, but it will be 8 and 5 that will eventually get me to -3. So if this is negative, more negatives, fewer positives. So now we're going to make our parentheses with those x's. And this time I have a couple of choices for 4. So again, I have 1 and 4, 2 and 2. So when I look, let's start with 4 and 1. 4 is pickier, and it can make 8. And 1 can make 5. 2 can make 8, but 2 can never make 5. So that's why we want to use the 1 and 4. So 1 and 4, making my face for the side numbers, not the top and bottom number. Now we already said 4 was pickier. So 4 times what makes -8? Well, that's a -2. And 1 times what makes +5? Well, that's a +5 because the x is already there. I'm peeling that sticky note. Bring that GCF of 2 back down, and there's number 10. All right, number 11. So here we go. Look for a GCF. Yep, I can take a 2 out of all of those, the smallest number, but not x's to everything. So 2 times what makes 4x squared? Well, that's 2 with x squared. 2 times 3 can make 6 with x, and 2 times 1 can make 2. All right. Covering up that GCF, 3 terms, so we will make our x. So I need factors of 2 that get me to 3, and the only factors of 2 are going to be 1 and 2, and if these are positive, and this works. So going to our parentheses, x and x are x squared, and what make 2 for x squared will be 1 and 2. Now you can always put 2 and 1. And now draw my face to make these side numbers, not the top and bottom number. And since 1 isn't picky and 2 is, 2 can only make 2. So 2 times 1 is 2x, and 1 times 1 will make that. Peel back my sticky note, drop down that GCF, and you have factored that completely. Last problem. All right, let's look for a GCF. So 4 is my smallest number, and 4 can go into 16, but not 9. And anything then smaller than 4, 3, 2, 1, 1 is the only thing that can go into all of them. And since I can't take an x out, don't bother with the 1. Here we go. All right, so factors of -36 that get me to -16, right? So factors of 36 that get me to -16. 1 second. All right, so I have a little program on my calculator that does my factors for me, and 2 and 18 are going to get me 16. And since there are negatives here, I definitely need negatives here. Since there are negatives here, there are more negatives and fewer positive. So we are ready to make our x, or our parentheses, sorry. And remember, the x and the x make the x squared. So what numbers make 9? Well, here we can choose from 1 and 9, or we could choose from 3 and 3. So if we look at 1 and 9, 9 looking at these side numbers, can make this number, and 1 can make this. 3 can make 18, but the other 3, can't make 2. So we have to use 1 and 9. So draw the face. And 9, we already said, can make 18. 9 times a negative 2 make this. And 1 times a positive 2 makes this number. And there was no GCF, so this problem's done. And that's it. So remember, make sure you're in touch with your algebra teacher about your showcase of learning.